Hello and welcome to another episode of PerryPOD. This week I am joined by T53 100, 200, 400 and 800 metre sprinter, European champion, world records holder, the list goes on and on. I am absolutely delighted to welcome Sammi Kinghorn to PerryPOD.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. So, as I said there, you're a T53 athlete. But obviously that has its boundaries in terms of the limitation that your body has. But knowing you a little bit, you weren't always disabled. And, I think that's obviously it's a massive part of your story and a massive part of your life that you broke your back in 2010. So for those that don't know how that came about, could you talk about that and explain how that, happened?
Yeah, of course. So on the 2nd of December 2010, when I was 14 years old, my whole life was literally flipped upside down. I had been home from school. It was the most snow I'd ever seen before in my life. And I'd been home from school for weeks because nothing could get in and out. One of my friends had even got blocked in. We were meant to be studying for exams, but they were all cancelled. And I thought it was having the best time ever, thinking, I don't have to go to school, don't even need to study for my exams. This is so good. And there's snow everywhere. But unfortunately, living on a farm, that means that there's stuff to do. So our job every day was to make sure that the kennels were clear, because the snow was, honestly, we had like 12-foot drifts of snow, and they were going right into the dog kennels. So we were like clearing out all the dogs every day and just doing all the little jobs so that my dad could get about and do his job. And on that particular day, the dogs had ran out of dog food, so we went down to the farm to pick up some more. And as I was coming back up the road, my dad was driving in a forklift, and I started to walk in front of him just to annoy him and put him off his job, really. And then I thought for some reason that it would be a good idea to jump onto part of the forklift. I still think about it all the time, because it's like, I have no idea why I thought that was a good idea. Like, I was always taught, you don't climb on machinery, they don't have any mercy for human life, you don't touch it. And and for some reason on that day I thought it'd be a good idea to climb onto part of the forklift underneath the main boom that comes down with them, like the big scoop on the end. So I climbed onto in between the join of that arm and the tractor. And as I was sitting there, I thought that my dad had seen me. I thought he knew I was there, and he didn't. And he just carried on with his job. He started to lower the boom and to shovel up snow. But unfortunately, that obviously caused a lot of pressure on my back. And I still remember like the immense amount of pressure on the back of my neck, and just like the compression down through my spine, and it was going and going and going, and then just popping. I was so annoyed at myself. I was so angry. I remember just being like, you idiot. Like, for me, my dad goes out every day to his work with a smile on his face because he loves what he does. And it's always been something we've been taught as a child, like life can be very long or life can be very short. So don't spend any of that time doing something that you don't enjoy. And so my first worry though is that my dad was going to lose his job. And my second worry was that in that moment, I'm going to die. And that's going to make the fact that my dad's lost his job and his daughter's died so much worse. I felt so much guilt in that moment. I remember closing my eyes, just being like, right, well, you're not going to be able to open them in a minute. That's it. You're going to be dead, and you've done this. You have to live with this, and this is your fault. And I was so annoyed at myself in that first instance. And that's probably the first thing I still remember feeling was definitely guilt before I felt any sort of pain or anything like that to start with. But wow. After that, it was really weird. It was really, because I still remember it. I remember even after my accident, being taken to hospital, and they were like, right, what do you remember? And I was like, I can tell you every single moment. I remember, eventually Dad lifted up the beam, and I realized that I was still alive, and I was like, I need to get out. So I slid myself forward, and I couldn't feel my legs, but I could still move them. So I was like running away from the forklift, and I knew that I had to run out and run to the left and make sure that Dad could see me. And I ran out, and then I slipped and I fell. And as I slipped and I fell, they reckon that that's the point where because I'd fractured and dislocated. And at the point I fell, that's when the dislocation happened, and it hit my spinal cord like completely. And then I remember lying on the ground, and like I felt like all my toes were like moving individually, and they're all like just like I had really bad cramp up and down my legs, and they were tingling, and then everything just kind of like seized up, and I could feel my legs moving, but I couldn't make them move anymore. Like I remember every single moment in that first few hours everything happening. Obviously, when the ambulance came and they put me through all the painkillers under the sun, that's when things start to get a bit foggy. But up until that moment, you know, I remember lying face down in the utility room, and my mum was on the phone to paramedics, and my dad was trying to clear our road because nothing had gotten in and out. So dad was trying his best, having to go back into the machine that he just, you know, hurt me with. He was back in that and trying to clear the road so that the ambulance could get through. And I remember speaking to my friend and just been like, I've broken my back and I'm never going to walk again. And it was all very clear to me, but I don't know why.
That's incredible. That's yeah, as you said, the fact that it was so clear to you and to remember something so traumatic so vividly, must be obviously very difficult at times. But so as you said, the doctors reckon that you didn't actually break it on the forklift. That was just possibly in just spinal shock. I guess.
Yeah. So I think they obviously so my spine was obviously quite badly stretched. Because of like the pressure, I was in such a bend and so much compression. So at that time, my spine was stretched and it bled, and then obviously my back fractured, and then when I jumped out, obviously because it was an unstable fracture, it then went into my spine. But they can't be like, oh yes, you would have walked if, because they don't know the damage. Exactly. Obviously, the bleed in the spinal cord would have done, but there is a chance that, you know, it probably would have been a little bit lower or something like that if I hadn't. But I'm very, very aware that if I hadn't got out, the next time dad brought it down, I would have been dead, because I'd moved position, because obviously I'd lost like the stability on my spine. So I'd kind of started to slump a bit. So this time the top of the beam was on the top of my head. So if we'd gone down again, my head would have been crushed. Yeah. So I knew I had to, if I was getting out, I had to jump all the way out, and I had to jump and run fast. It couldn't be a slow movement because dad would just bring it back down again. And it's something that can smash half a ton. So, you know, it's like, I'm not going to say anything to my little skull. So I knew that, you know, I definitely had to get out there and then.
Yeah. And, you know, I think just that wherewithal to realize that you were in obviously, you know, massive trouble. And, you know, the fact that you had that, you know, perception, like I need to, it's fight or flight, you know, it is do or die, and the fact that you were able to get out of there is incredible. And when, you know, obviously you said you remember lying in the utility room and speaking to your friend like, I'm not going to walk again, and you go to the hospital and get pumped full of every painkiller under the sun, no surprise. But when did it like truly sort of become reality that this, you know, this is my life now?
So I was transferred to the hospital. I knew I'd broken my back. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to walk again. I didn't know that I was going to be in a wheelchair because I'd never met anyone with any physical disability before in my life. No one at all. And I just had no idea of adaptive equipment. I didn't know that was possible. So to start with, I genuinely believed that I was going to be stuck in bed forever. I think that's just, it still blows my mind to this day that, you know, that's not something that I was ever taught, or it's something that I was ever open to, because it's just, I'd never seen it. You know, I lived in a very small place in the Scottish borders. It's not something you see around here very often at all. So for me, the first few hours I was trying to plan what I was going to do with my life, since I knew I was going to be stuck in bed forever. I thought I was going to be stuck in bed forever even. I remember like my mum and dad coming into the room because they were the ones that wanted to tell me the extent of my injuries instead of the doctor, and my dad could hardly even look at me, and my mum just came in screaming like, my baby, we're so sorry. And I was just like, I just knew in that moment that I had to be the adult, and I had to put on my big girl pants, and I just had to say, I'm going to be all right, it's fine. And that's all I said. I just said, it's fine. And I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to get upset. So I just kept saying, it's fine, I'm fine, I know what I'm going to do. And I'd been like, I'm going to do an online uni course that I could do from my bed. And I'm going to, like, I'd planned this little imaginary life that I thought, you know, I just wanted to try and make it a bit better for them, because I knew how hard it was going to be for them. But I hadn't really thought about myself or my life or how it was going to change, really, because I was probably a bit too scared too. And I just wanted to just move in the moment. And I think I knew it was my fault. had nobody to stand there and scream at and throw my arms around and say, you done this to me, I done it to myself. And I was always, as a child even, quite aware of there's consequences to the mistakes that are made, and this was my consequence.
And you said obviously you had to be the adult, and you'd said I'm going to be fine. And at 14-year-old, you're still a kid. You are, there's no
completely
around it. You are a kid, and I've found, with stories like yourself and meeting children that are not in the best, position physically due to illness or injury or disability, they have this incredible resilience and this incredible mindset that just makes them like almost forget everything and just get through whatever's in front of them, and I think you've summed that up perfectly, because as a 14-year-old girl who's just broken her back, you're like, it's fine, don't worry about it, I'm gonna be okay. And like, adults can't do that, as if you were to break your back now, I imagine it'd be such a different story as to when you were 14 years old, because kids just have that amazing like disregard for everything else other than just crack on with it, and that's absolutely fantastic. So when on you go, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I genuinely think one of the biggest things that kids have on their side is like they don't understand the fear, and they don't understand all the implications. They just kind of think, okay, this has happened, right, what's next? Like, that's it. Whereas adults, they know, if I break my arm, I'm off work for 12 weeks, I'm off doing this, and there's so many implications to everything. Whereas as a child, it's like, right, well, this has happened, that's a bit crap, but we'll do this now. I am glad that, when I was younger, I was just a bit more happy-go-lucky, like, right, yeah, cool, this has happened, now I need to do something else, because that's all I've got now. So definitely, I think as a child, you've got that bit easy go in life.
Yeah, definitely. So when, you said obviously you created this plan in your head, you're going to do a uni course from your bed, and you're going to, live this life out from sitting down in your bed all day. When did you first get your first wheelchair, and then obviously, expand to trying out new sports? So
I got taken up to the spinal unit in Glasgow, and even then still didn't know. I got on like an operation to put spinal rods into my back. And then it honestly wasn't until probably 4 to 5 weeks after my accident that I'm guessing at some point someone must have measured me, but I can't remember that part. But someone must have measured me. And then my physio, that had been coming in every day and stretching my legs, and I'd just been ignoring her and letting her do whatever she was doing, because I didn't really understand what she was doing. And the next day she came round with a chair, and I remember just being like, what? She was like, right, we'll get you up. You can get up for 30 minutes today. Like, it was like, to start with, I think it was only like 5 minutes, and then you build up your time in the chair. And so she was like, right, you can get up for 5 minutes. We'll take you around. You'll start rehab in the next few weeks. And I was just like, I'm allowed out, and I'm going to be able to move on my own. And actually, like, that was so much better. Like, to me, that wasn't a disabled wheelchair. That was something that was completely enabling me to live my life. I didn't see it as like a disability equipment or disabled equipment or anything like that straight. Like, I just seen it as something that was going to enable me to go and see my pals. That's all it was. I was like, wait, what? I can push out this door by myself. I don't have to, get wheeled around in a bed and everyone come sit by my bedside. And so I remember going in for the first time, and I couldn't even get through a doorway. I was so confused. I felt so wide and big, but I was so chuffed with it, just because I didn't see it as anything negative, because I'd already had the most negative thing planted in my head. So anything that could better that was a positive. And seeing them wheels, something that I was going to be able to, I was taken through the rehab centre, and I remember seeing people being taught how to feed themselves and being taught how to transfer, and it just opened a whole new world to me. I think, like, spinal injury, it's literally the best way I can ever describe to anyone a spinal injury is that it's like being born again, but you have the added frustration that you've already learned it all. And that's the most annoying part, because I know how easy it was for me to pull my trousers up, and how easy it was for me to jump into bed or do that. Whereas, everything takes a little bit longer at the start, and some things you're like, I'm never going to be able to put my trousers on again. So I was going to have to help me do this for the rest of my life. And then, you learn it just like you do as a baby. You learn it, and it's a new way of learning. But going through that rehab for the first time, and seeing people like going up and down little curbs, and we had half a car in our physio thing to like show us how to transfer. And I remember my physio being like, you can drive at 16 when you've got a disability, and I was like, hang on a minute, let me phone my mum.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
Yeah, there was so many different avenues, and for me, it was a new lease of life, and it was better than what I'd had myself prepared for.
Yeah, and so you said it was this new lease of life. Obviously, growing up on a farm, you have no other choice but to be incredibly active, you know, dealing with the animals, the equipment, everything that entails farm life. But was sport a part of that, or was it just, you know, farm life and meeting up with friends and just living as a young girl?
Yeah, so sport was always like a big part of my life. I always enjoyed sport, but it was definitely because I was a sociable person. I think on every single school report card, I was told I was a social butterfly, because they would try and move me around the class to stop me speaking and put me beside people they didn't think I was friends with, and then I'd make friends with them. So I think for me, like as a child, my mum would put me into every sport because I always had so much energy. She'd put me into anything, and my parents were so great that they gave me although we live out in the sticks and everywhere's a drive, and my mum and dad both work, you know, full time, and they always took me and my brother to anything we wanted to try. I mean, I was that annoying kid that I'd be like, Mum, I want to go here, I want to try this, and she'd buy me all the stuff, and then I'd go, I don't want to do that anymore. My friend's doing judo, can I do that? And like, it would just be something different, and I'd always want to try new things. And I'd never seen myself as a sports person, though. I never wanted to be a sports person. I never had them big dreams that you see them little kids saying. You know, I never watched the Olympics. It was never something that I aspired to do. I wouldn't have known anyone if you had asked me at 14. At that stage, I wanted to be a zoologist because my biggest idol was Steve Irwin. He's my biggest idol in the world. And oh gosh, I cried like a baby when I was like he was my father. I was honestly absolutely heartbroken. But yeah, that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I'd selected my subjects for. You know, I'd selected all the sciences, I'd selected everything to in order to go to university and study zoology. So yeah, coming into the world of disability and then getting the opportunity to try different sports for me was like, yes, fantastic. Like, I love to be active. I'm 14 years old, obviously very body conscious. I want to do things and make myself feel good again. So that, to start with, that's all it was. I still didn't really know about the Paralympic Games, and I went down to the Spinal Unit Games, which happens every year in April, down in Stoke Mandeville, where obviously the whole Paralympic movement started, which is just an incredible place. But I had no idea. I didn't realise how fortunate this whole opportunity was for me. And when I went down there, we tried every single sport. So it's like all the spinal units in Scotland, England, Wales and Ireland, and they all come together and you do like a competition, and the way that you win is that you pretty much try every sport you can and you get a little tick, and it's how many sports you've tried compared to the other teams. So I tried everything. Now, I've got an older brother, so there is a competitive streak in there. So I literally, you know, I'd done fencing, I'd done basketball, we done murder ball at rugby, and we done tennis. I'd done as many sports as I could possibly do. And I still remember the day they were like, right, we want to do athletics. And I was like, but I can't run. And I'm not sure what you're thinking I'm going to be doing. I was like, I was always quite good at running. My mum always told me I was good at running. I was like, I don't know what you're thinking I'm going to be doing in athletics. And I had no idea, absolutely no idea. And I remember going down, and it was Nikki Emerson, and it was Tanner Thompson's husband, Ian Thompson, were down there, and she was pushing around on the track in her chair, and it was white and it had pink stars in it, and I remember just like, to me it didn't look like a major disability staring you in the face. It looked like something that was quite cool and fast, and the technology and the carbon wheels, and to me it just looked quite cool. It looked fun. It didn't look like all I wanted was for someone to say, yes, that's a sad thing that happened to that girl and she's got this story, but look what she's doing now. I didn't want anyone to always be like, oh, it's a shame. Oh, it's a real shame what happened. And just like, it's not a shame, I done it to myself, and it's like, that's it. Like, I don't need your pity. I'm okay. I'm absolutely fine, thank you. And that's all I wanted. I just didn't want anyone. And so I remember trying wheelchair racing, and I jumped into a chair, and I've always had a stronger upper body because my dad's made me lift everything since I was a child. You know, I'd be right behind my dad the whole time on the farm trying to pick up everything he was picking up. So I was probably a little bit stronger than most girls my age, especially in my upper body. And I remember jumping into a chair, and Ian Thompson was like, you know, you could be really good at this. And I think for them, those words to a 14-year-old girl that has just had her whole life flipped upside down was incredibly inspiring, and, you know, something that I genuinely took with both hands. And I remember going home and being like, Mum, Dad, I'm going to do athletics. I just need 10 grand to buy a chair, please. And my dad was like, absolutely not.
No biggie.
Absolutely not. So that's kind of how it all started, and was, I guess that's my Paralympic Games after seeing that.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously I know you raised the funds and you got the chair and you got going, and you know, you set off at incredible speed in terms of your career progressing. You know, as you said, you had this advantage of growing up on a farm. You know, you're basically just bench pressing sheep every day, you know.
Very
so
much.
you know, the fact that you said you've got this natural advantage because you're so young, you've already got the upper body strength that requires to push a chair, you know, because for anyone that's not done it, like, if you ever get the opportunity, give it a go, because it is bloody tough trying to hurl yourself down a track on one of those chairs. But your career just took off almost instantly, didn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of mad because even when I got my first chair, it wasn't in the thought that I wanted to be a Paralympian, and it was just something that looked really cool. I love going fast, and I was like, I'm going to be faster than I was before. I'm going to be better than I was before, and that was how it started. And I managed to find a club in Scotland, in Glasgow, Red Star, and I went. Mum and Dad were so good again. You know, up to Glasgow, it's 2 hours. They drove me up there, and we tried it. I tried it out, and I met all these other people, and that's, for me, that was the first thing that really drew me in. Was there's more people that are the same as me, and they're fine, and they're laughing, and they've got friends, and they've got partners, and that's, you know, for me, it was just enabling me to see how my life could be. And that was the first reason I done it, was because I enjoyed it and I met incredible people. And I guess my coach, quite quickly, he was like, right, I think you're quite good at this. We'll take you to Dubai and we'll get you classified. And I was like, Dubai? Oh my gosh. Like, I was just so excited. You know, my mum came with me because I was only 16 years old, and she came out with me to Dubai. We got classified, and I started racing. I was quite quickly, you know, one of the best in Britain in my classification, and went to Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And that day was mental. Like, I remember my coach was like, right, you're doing the 1500. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm absolutely not.
That's quite far.
That's 3.25 times around the track. And no, thank you. I don't want to be doing that. And
I don't blame you.
I did not. And so I was like, fine, I'll do it. And so, like, I remember he was like cheating me on, and I was just like looking at my lap like, I have no words for you. No words. And I remember the bell went, and I was like, oh, it's me done. And he was like, no, it means you've got 1 lap to go. I was like, oh, right, okay, I'll do 1 more lap then. I done a lap, and I came off the track, and he was like, well done, you've just qualified for Glasgow 2014. And I was just like, I never planned this. This isn't. And going there.
Didn't even want to do it. Didn't even want to do it.
I didn't even want to do it. I didn't even want to do it. But that day in that stadium, the best feeling that I've ever felt in my life. You have 50,000, like, mainly Scottish people, absolutely screaming your name with a saltire on your chest, when I never ever thought that I would ever represent my country in anything. That was incredible. And after that moment, I was like, no, do you know what? I want to be good at this, and I want to be the best in the world, and I'm going to push myself really hard to make it and do that.
And then, so, I mean, the same year as Glasgow, you've got the European Championships, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I mean, you did all right there, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely a sprinter. 1500 meters is just that little bit too far. Too much concentration for me. I'm not ready for that yet. But I came sixth in my first Commonwealth Games. You know, made the final. I came sixth, and making the final was the only thing that I wanted to do. And I was so chuffed with myself. And then I think it was like literally, I don't even know if it was 2 weeks later. I had European Games, and the chance of a medal was, I was told, was quite secure, and that was quite scary, I think, for me. I remember my brother's 5.5 years older, so obviously he left the house before I was even really probably at the age to be allowed to play with him. You know, he went to the army at 16, so we've always had a funny kind of relationship of, you know, I know that he's there for me when I really need him, but otherwise he'll just, you know, stand there while I knock you over. That was kind of our relationship. If you want to play with me, let me choke slam you. Then that was it. So that was my relationship with my brother. But I remember at Europeans, I was so scared, and I was spewing, and I was terrified. And I was like, I'm gonna phone my brother. And he was like, do you love it? And I was like, yeah, I really, really like it. And he went, that's fine then. And he was like, I don't care if you win a medal or any colour of medal, as long as you can come off that track and say that I really enjoyed it and I love what I do. And I just like, it was just one of the moments where I was like, do you know what, that is what's important. And why am I getting so worked up about, you know, about this race that I've only really started doing, and there's not any pressure on me. And then, you know, coming away with 3 gold medals from my first European Games was, that was a phenomenal feeling. And after, when you start winning medals, that's like, right, I want more. I want to be in that podium and see that flag go up high. You know, I want to see that, and it just inspires you to keep going, because it's tough. It's really tough work. I'm sore most days, but yeah.
I mean, triple gold at your first Euros, you know, as you said, if that doesn't inspire you to keep going, like what will? You know, and obviously, you know, the following year you've got the World Championships. I'm assuming your great performance at the Euros qualified you automatically for the World Championships in Doha. And you then go from being the best in Europe to 3rd in the world. You know, that's you got a bronze at the World Championships. Like, that's incredible. That, you know, to have the success of, you know, like back-to-back major championship medals, you know, it makes you appreciate those tough days. You said you're sore every day because you're working so hard, and to get the medal and be on those podiums, like, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Completely. That's what we do it for. You know, it's tough graft, and sometimes you know, sometimes where I can't go and just hang out with my friends or have a takeaway or go and do that, because it's like, well, I've got an event in a few weeks' time and I probably need to try and keep my weight around about this, and I need to try and make sure I'm eating this. I need to make sure I'm getting 9 and 10 hours sleep a day, because I'm a sprinter and I'm knackered, and you know, it's like my body's, you know, constantly fatigued sometimes, it feels like. But you know, when you go out into that stadium and there's a medal hung around your neck, it's just so bittersweet, isn't it? It's just that feeling of, it's actually, you know, this has all been worth it. This is incredible. But you know, it's every competition. You know, if I get personal best, I'm so chuffed. And it's getting harder now. When I was that age, I got personal best every competition I went, because I was racing faster and faster people. You know, and that was always so fun. You know, if you raced in Scotland, I'd get a PB, and then it was like, right, I'm struggling to get PBs in Scotland. I'll go down south and race faster people down in England, and I got PBs from racing faster people, and it's like, right, we'll go to Europe, and then it's like, right, we'll go against the rest of the world. And now I'm like, oh, it's getting a bit harder to get them PBs now. You're sitting on that brink of am I going to get any faster? And that's when it gets scary again, because it's like, right, I still need to get faster. I know I can still get faster, but everything starts to slow down that little bit, and it's just the tiny little improvements that I found really amazing. Them little things that your body will give you, them little extra bits that you're like, I'm never going to be able to bench press more than this. And then you work up and you have these incredible plans, and you're like, right, I can now bench press 2 kilograms more. And you're like, well, that day I bench pressed that once. I didn't think I'd ever be able to do any more than that. And you're like, it's amazing to watch your body grow.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of bench press, I'm sick to the back teeth of going into the Scottish Institute gym and seeing your name on the record board for bench press. Like, I'm like, can someone overtake her? Please, every time I go into the gym, it's Sammi Kinghorn, bench press, Sammi Kinghorn, pull up, Sammi, and I'm like, what can't she do? Like, this girl is incredible, you know. That is, of course, a compliment and a testament to the hard work that you put in. But you spoke about taking on the rest of the world. You qualified for your first Paralympic Games, you know, within 5 years of taking up the sport. You know, you fly out to Rio, like that's almost unheard of. Getting, you know, you had one cycle to do it, and you got to the games, and you put in a great performance. I know you didn't medal, but like you came 5th and 6th in the events that you took part in.
Yeah, I came 5th in the 100, 6th in the 400, and then 6th and 5th or 6th in the 800 as well. I remember when I first started to, you know, I was asking my coach, can I get more sessions? I want to do it more. I want to be, you know, I want to get faster. And he was like, right, what do you want out of the sport? He was like, I see, he's not a pushy coach. He's not the kind of person to say, you know, I can see you being the best in the world, so I'm going to give you all these programs. He expects you to ask when you want to, you know, at the beginning, you have to show that you want that, because it's, you know, it's hard work writing programs for people. And so he's like, what do you want out of the sport? And I was like, I want to go to Rio. And he was like, it's quite tough. I don't know if we'll make all the way to Rio, maybe just. And I was like, no, I'm going to Rio. That's it, I'm going to Rio. And the day I got my phone call, I was like, I'm going to phone him. And going to Rio was incredible, but I didn't realize how much athletes need to be mentally strong up until me going into the call room in Rio. I had absolutely no idea. I was still just doing it as a young girl who's having a whale of a time and is actually pretty good at something she didn't expect to be very good at. That's all it was up until that point. And I remember going in Rio, and the people that would normally speak to you now won't speak to you. And there's like, everyone's silent in the call room, and there's a couple of people that'll talk, but most people are just staring at you, because it's their livelihood. If these people don't win a medal, they might lose funding, which means they can't keep their house, which means, and it, you know, as a 20-year-old girl, I hadn't really had to think about that yet. I still was just really loving what I was doing and just couldn't believe my luck at where I was and what I was doing. So to me, I was just like, look at this, we're all at the Paralympic Games, whereas they're all like, this is very serious. And then I remember going to the call room and everyone was like so serious, and I'm trying to speak to people and people are just like not even looking at me. And I've got this one woman that barks like literally like a dog, like woof woof. And I remember being like, should I be barking? Maybe I should be barking.
No,
like no,
no, you shouldn't.
But genuinely got in my head so much to be like, is she doing something? I've never been told that, but I don't know. Like, I was just like, I don't know if that's doing something. I was so like confused, and I just thought about everyone else. And I'm 20 years old. I really care if somebody doesn't speak to me. And I was just like, I don't know what's happening, and nobody's speaking to me. And I remember going out and just not doing as best as I could. And the 100 meters, I probably, where my time was before I went in, I probably could have come fourth, and I got disqualified in the 400 meters, and then it was like the 800. And I was ranked 10th in the world, and 8 make the final. And my coach was like, right, you've just got to throw everything at this. He was like, even if you're sore in the first 100 meters, you've got to just if it's worth it. And I was just like, I don't want to leave Rio, with what I've experienced just now. I want to feel confident about my abilities in this sport, because I know I can be better. And I went into the 800 meters and I felt the lactic in the first 200. I tasted blood after the first lap, and I thought, I'm never going to finish this. I don't know. Wow. And I got into the first pack, which I'd never been in before in my life, and I just sat there and held on, and I finished in the top three in my heats. I made it to the final, and I got like an 8-second PB, and that was my first ever European record. And considering 800 meters is not my event, that's something I'm really, really proud of, is that in an event that I don't see as my specialized event, that's where I got my first European record, because I really wanted it. I really wanted to make that final, and I wanted to make it and know that I deserved to be there. I think after Rio, I sat with my dad in the crowd, and I watched the girls that I just raced against in the final in the 800 and said, Dad, next year it's in London and I'm going to win a medal. And my dad was like, you just came fifth. And I was like, how rude. You wait. But for that, at that moment in time, I believed in myself. And I hadn't done before, because I hadn't really needed to. I was always good enough just to get there and get here. And I'd never really had to use my mental strength to take me that little bit further. And in Rio, that's when I needed it. I needed to have that belief that I was good enough to be there, and I didn't. And it wasn't until after the 800 meters where I was like, no, do you know what? I need to be able to line up against these girls and look along the line and go, you know what? I deserve to be here, and I'm good enough to be here. And it wasn't until I had little failures and little slip-ups and the worries and the scares to actually be like, no, do you know what? The belief it's bigger than the natural ability. You need to be able to believe and have the whole mental ability as well.
Yeah, it's I totally agree. It's more than half of the game is the mental side of it, because you put the work in day out, whether it's like myself on the table or you on the track. Like, it's the hard work on the track is the easy stuff. It's actually, it's the space between your ears telling you, I can do this, I deserve to be here. And as you said, that's something that every athlete goes through. It's something every person goes through, whether it's at work or in personal life, or it's quieting those doubts and actually just backing yourself and going, you know what, I've got this. And I think that's such a good message to get out there. But you said, you sat in the crowd with your dad, and said, next year in London, I want to be in contention. I want to, say that I deserve this.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a not bad job at it, didn't you?
I know. It was mad. I came home. I like to think that I'm I'm fairly confident in, you know, my racing chair and my technical ability within my racing chair. I knew when I came out of Rio, I was like, right, it's my starts. This is where I'm losing everyone at this. And this, like, I watched all the videos back and I knew exactly, look, the first push, I'm losing everyone, right? I need a new chair. This is how I need it to be designed. And I was so lucky that I had Bromwich and Loughborough, that I had my complete back in, that I went down and I said, I need this. I know what I need now. I never knew before, but I knew this is where I'm losing it. I think this is what's happening in my acceleration and I need to change this. And they were so good at working with me and gave me, you know, got me a new chair. And I trained really, really hard that winter. You know, like I was busting. I got every single, especially on my last reps. You know, I killed myself on the LM last reps because I wanted to make sure that even if I thought I was tired, I still had more. And that was like my biggest worry. It was always like, oh, you know, you start to feel tired, you think, I'm tired. No, I need to know that, you know, even I'm pushing myself tired up to 8 reps, I'm going to do that 9th one because I need to, my body needs to learn that although it's tired, it's got another one in there. And yeah, I really, really did push myself. And I went to Arizona, was my first race of the year, my new chair. And that's when I broke the world record in the 200 meters. And that was like mad, like proper mad. Like it didn't get announced on the track. So I had no idea. So I'd done the race and my coach got the times of the world record mixed up. So I thought I was just off it. Not that I was aiming for a world record. It was a massive personal best for me. And I was so happy with that. And we came away and I was making tea, I was making pasta. And my coach was sitting over in the living room bit at the hotel we had. And he was like on his laptop and he got a phone call. And he took the phone call and he was just like, right, oh, okay, right. And I was like, and he was like, you know, that 200 meters tonight, that you broke the world record. And I was just like, right. And I was like, right now I'm not hungry. And I was just like, I didn't know what to do. And I was just like, it was the weirdest sensation. And I was just like, right. Like my dad says to me before every race, he says, you know, if something exciting happens, I want to know about it. And he means if I get personal best, you know, he's my biggest supporter and he wants to know. And so I looked at the time, me being in Arizona, and I was like, it's 3 a.m. I can phone my dad at 3 a.m. I'll phone my dad. So I phoned my dad and he answered the house phone and he was like, I was like, Dad, it's Samantha. And he was like, hello. Does this mean something exciting's happened? And I was like, yeah, Dad. And he was like, did you get a personal best? And I was like, Dad, I just broke the world record. And all I could hear was him just like bawling his eyes, like waking my mum up, like, I just broke the world record. And it was just, you know, and that's, you know, it's an individual sport. And, you know, sometimes you have to be selfish in sport and you have to think about yourself. But when I'm on that track, I'm doing it for so many more people than myself, all these people that have invested time into me. And, you know, my parents are obviously the people that have invested the most time, and especially my dad, to have anything to do with my accident at all, which he had, is always going to play a part in his mind of what my life could have been. And if there's any way I can soften that blow and help him to understand that, you know, I've got this completely new life and I'm really enjoying my life, that helps me to know that I'm helping him. So breaking that world record that night and telling him was just that little moment of being like, I'm doing fine. No, I'm doing absolutely fine. And then, you know, going to London, oh my goodness, I threw up before every race. I spewed, I was ill, I was like, oh god. And you get onto the track and it's like you've inhaled the whole Sahara Desert. I was like, and then at one moment I remember being like, I don't think I remember how to breathe. Oh no, I've lost it. I don't know how to breathe in anymore. And you're like, this is so ridiculous. Breathing's natural, stop it. And I remember like doing our like warm-up lap and being like, oh no, don't know how to take a breath in. And like, it's just like, it's so ridiculous. The whole lap round I was just like so scared, terrified. And I remember going up to the start line and just put my hands in the right position. I remember just saying to myself, right, your hands are in the right position, you've got the fastest start, your hands are in the right position, you've got the fastest start, just get out. That's all you can do, you've got the fast. And I just kept saying that again and again in my head. And then I remember like the Olympics, the stadium like erupting when they like called out my name. And I remember just being like, oh my god, like this is incredible. I remember watching 2012 and watching the greats of my sport, like Hannah Cockcroft and David Weir, and succeeding. And that stadium was just, it's an amazing feeling. And coming over that finish line, and I broke the world record again, and I got a gold medal. And the only people I wanted, I get literally, even if you watch the race, the commentator says that I'm going for the fastest honorary like victory lap as well, because I literally stop and I'm like, where's my mum and dad? And then I just spin around and I don't even like take a moment to like take a flag or do anything like that, because I'm literally just like, oh my goodness, where's my dad? Like, so I literally sprint it all, because mum and dad are obviously on the home straight, so I'm like sprint all the way around and just go see mum and dad, because that's, for me, that, you know, they're the people that have got me to this stage. When I couldn't drive, they're the ones that drove me there, and they're the ones that clothed me. When I couldn't afford to pay for anything, they're the ones that get me. Yeah, that was just, it's an amazing feeling, especially home games. You know, you can't beat that. You can't beat that.
You know, and so yeah, incredible achievement again. I mean, no one's surprised, you know, with the amount of work that you put in. But how do you go from doing like absolutely killing and breaking world records in sprint events to doing the marathon at the Gold Coast?
Oh,
how does that come about?
Stop it. Oh, it was awful. It was so awful. Oh gosh. My coach, honestly, so like, apparently I've got quite a nice stroke or whatever, I don't know, but he'll be like to me, you know, we'd go, like, I do quite a lot on stuff on the road, you know, especially where I was brought up in the Scottish Borders have amazing roads. So to start with, you know, my dad would just come and cycle with me before, you know, I was going on tracks and things. And my coach was always like, oh, you'll be a beautiful marathon pusher. Oh, you'll be. And I was like, I'm not doing it. No, not doing it. And then unfortunately, my greed for wanting to go to Australia was a bit more than not doing a marathon. And obviously at Commonwealth Games, we don't have all the events. There's only like this, there was two. That was the first time there was ever two events as well. We had the 1500 meters and the marathon. And I was like, well, I'll just do the 15. And my coach was like, well, you know, if you're going, you may as well do the marathon. And so yeah, I blame him. But I literally came off the world champs, and we kind of said to ourselves that we will try for this marathon, and then, you know, we'll make sure that we're back for sprints for Tokyo. That was it. That was literally our aim. You know, we won't write anything else in between. We'll make sure we're back for sprints for Tokyo. I've won a world gold medal. I want to win a Paralympic gold medal. So it's like, right, we'll do this marathon. Qualified in Chicago. I got like the record for the fastest ever first time marathon. It was awful. I hated every minute, honestly.
Oh yeah, I bet.
It's so like
You've got a knack for doing things you don't want to do.
Oh, I know. It's because I can't say no. My coach knows this as well. I think he led me astray. It's so mean. I can't say no. He's literally like, go on. I'm like, right, okay. And oh my goodness, I literally, he's got a photo of me, and I'm like warming up, and I'm just glaring at him like, I hate you made me do this. But I had a problem with my chair as well. So my chair got a bit knocked in the flight over. So my wheel was on one side was slightly further out than the other one, which meant that for the full 26.2, also only up until about 5 weeks before the marathon, I thought a marathon was 24 miles. Genuinely 5 weeks. 5 weeks before, my coach was like, what do you mean 24? And he was like, it's 26.2. And I was like, I've only signed up for 24. I've only signed up for 24. I'm stopping after this. I didn't have no idea. I had no idea whatsoever. So that was nice. Yeah, so the whole marathon, my arm was rubbing against the wheel. So I had like plasters over my thumbs, and my arm was bleeding so bad that like at one point I had to stop, take the plaster off my thumb and like put it on in my arm, and then that wore through. And so like I remember like at one point I knew there was obviously all I was going for was a time to qualify for Commonwealth Games, but I can't do anything after. If I'm trying, you know. So I busted a gut. I got myself into a really good pack. I was really, really lucky that the marathon that I'd done, there was loads of participants, so I managed to get into a nice little pack. And I remember at one point, one of the girls I was pushing with, she was like, you know, you're bleeding. And I was like, yes, because I'm fully aware that there is blood filling into my glove right now. And it was just like literally running all the way down my arm. So my whole wheel was just red on one side because it was so covered in blood. It was so stingy. I remember just finishing, and my coach just had like a beer. He was like, you're all right? And he's like, he'd expected me to finish in like, he'd expected me to finish at like in 2 hours and 5 or something. So he was like, in the morning, he was like, right, well, I'll go for one breakfast now. And then, you know, I get into a VIP thing. And so I'll get a beer and another breakfast before, and then I'll be ready there. And then he came round and he was like, I only had a chance to have one breakfast. And I was like, I'm bleeding to death. I had to finish now or I might have not made it.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. So you're back on the sprinting track now for Tokyo. You're done with the marathons. You're sprinting in Tokyo. That's the plan.
Yeah, I've done 2, and I think that was fine. I think maybe when I get older and I can't sprint anymore, my arms, my fast twitch fibers aren't going as fast as they used to, then I might take a look back. But definitely Not for a while. Not for a while. It was, you know, and Australia was incredible. And Commonwealth Games, with it being completely integrated, is a really incredible thing to be a part of, and I really love going to the Commonwealth Games. But I still have so much to prove as a sprinter. So back to that for now.
Brilliant. And, you know, so Tokyo obviously postponed for a year. How has that impacted your training and stuff?
Yeah, it's been really weird because I guess like 2019, I had to take some time out. I had to get an operation, so that obviously knocked me off, you know, a big part. Went to World Championships, and I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that because I didn't feel like the best. So I didn't go into the race feeling like I was the best in the world. So that, you know, I won a bronze medal, and I don't know how. I was off for 4 months. And I wasn't able to do anything because it was like in my abdominal, so I wasn't allowed to crunch. I wasn't allowed to do any weights at all because I wasn't allowed to put any pressure through my abdomen. So that was really hard because it was just like you can't do anything. Like, there's not even like I could tick over by, you know, doing a little bit of my arms, because obviously you use your core for everything. So yeah, I wasn't allowed to do anything at all for 4 months, and that was from you know, I probably trained for 5 weeks before World Champs. But I wanted to go because I didn't want to do it as like, I didn't want to, you know, obviously I was reigning World Champ, and I just didn't want to be like, oh no, I'm not fit. And I wanted to go and just at least take the loss and take it on the chin and say, right, that's fine. And I really didn't think that I was going to win any medal. So, you know, I got a really, really good time, especially in the heats. My time was so good. And then obviously I kind of panicked a bit in the final and got a bronze medal, which, you know, again, a bronze in a world final after only 5 weeks of training that year's. I'm taking that, and I know that I'm going to improve. So yeah, big block of winter training again after that World Champs, and I went out to Australia and trained my Hannah and really pushed myself hard again. And I was actually excited to race this year, whereas like, I'm still sick to this day. You know, if I have to race, I'm still that person spewing in the morning, forcing myself to eat. I'm not fun to be around in the morning before a race. I know that, but yeah, I was actually looking forward to it, and it was I felt fit and I felt fast, and I hadn't felt particularly fast since London. So I was actually really starting to look forward to going back on and sprinting. But obviously everything was just kind of turned upside down, and it's more just the unknowing. Like, we've done a few races this year, but I've never peaked for them, so I've just trained through. So I've been sore in races, and I've never, you know, it's been good times though, which is really, really good to see. And I've been able to race in Britain a lot, which is I don't normally do anymore very much. So that's been quite nice, and I spent a lot of time. I moved back up to my mum and dad's because I was living in Glasgow, and obviously I was just like, I don't think the city environment right now is probably the best place to be for me, because I need to train twice a day, and I'm only allowed to go outside once, and then it's like everywhere's so busy. And so at least here we've got a private road, and I can train up and down there, and I've got big rollers, and we have a gym in the garage, which I was so lucky to have. I know so many people didn't have any access to anything like that for a long time. So yeah, decided that I'd move back in with my parents and do that. And it was really weird moving back into my parents as an adult and not as a child anymore. But, you know, I got to spend a lot of time with them, and we had barbecues, and there was some really nice things, and we spent a lot of time together. My dad gave me a pet lamb, which I raised.
Seen that? Ruby. I've seen your little lamb on Instagram. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Thanks. She's now a fully I keep calling her my lamb, and Dad's like, she's a sheep now, and I'm like, she's still my lamb, she's still my little lamb. But it was really hard, like, because I always wanted one when I was little. You know, like, working with the sheep was my favorite area on the farm to work with, and I always wanted a pet lamb. And Dad was like, you don't have the commitment skills yet to look after a pet lamb. I totally get what he means now. So I put her in a pen outside my bedroom window, and then she'd just meh every 2 hours when she was hungry through the night. I was getting up through the night and feeding this pet lamb. It was
incredible.
Just screaming, but she's really good now, and it was something that I've always wanted to do, and something I probably wouldn't have been able to do for a very, very long time, because normally I'd be away competing and away training places. So it was actually really nice to bring her up and see her. And now she's gone out to a field with all her other, and I'm keeping her, and she's going to have lambs like next year. So brilliant. That's exciting.
Very exciting. That's up there with Tokyo. You're going to be A mother to how many lambs? That's who
No.
needs the Paralympic Games?
Exactly. We're gonna
So
have a flock.
Sammy the shepherd. There we go. So yeah, obviously, you know, I of course want to wish you the best of luck with Tokyo when it comes. I know that you're going to be as best prepared as you properly can. But before we say goodbye, I haven't told you about this, but we're going to do 5 quick fire questions. So you got to be on your toes here.
Okay.
There's no thinking
Right.
allowed. So it's just going to be 3, 2, 1, go. Favorite Paralympic sport other than your own?
Skiing. Oh no, it's not. Really, is that count?
No, come on, quicker. Skiing. You've went skiing. We're going skiing.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
A steak pie.
Oh, love it.
Steak
Favorite
pie.
pastime?
Cinema.
Nice.
No,
best
not
place
just
in the
now.
world?
Australia.
Nice. And best movie you've ever watched?
Dirty Dancing.
Oh, that's great. I tell you what, steak pie and Dirty Dancing, that is fantastic. Well done. And skiing as well. Tell you what, some interesting answers there. I enjoyed that. Sammy, you've been absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed filming this. I know obviously you've got things on today, so I'm not going to keep you for too long. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you very much. No, I've really enjoyed it as well. It's always nice to have a conversation and chat about things. Nice. Thank you.
A quick word from our sponsors, the Turmeric Co. The Turmeric Co's products are quickly becoming the gold standard for individuals who are searching for products that can positively impact their holistic health, with each ingredient selected offering extraordinary nutritional value. From the moment of launch, the Turmeric Co's primary goal was to help fulfil the lives of its customers through high quality, effective yet natural turmeric-based shots. A range of proprietary blends in a shot format offers a convenient solution for people using turmeric as a regular part of their nutrition. No powders and no low quality filler ingredients such as apple juice or water. Only premium, raw and absorbable turmeric root is used in every shot, with a combination of other superfood ingredients making this range an effective yet delicious option for people to support their daily health through natural nutrition. If you want to see these benefits for yourself, make sure you use code PERRY10 at checkout. You'll receive 10% off, you'll get 100% of the rewards, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe so we can get more episodes of PerryPOD out in the future.